The grand halls of the Galactic Concord shone with bright lights on the neutral station called Epsilon Prime. Hundreds of different species walked around, talking in low voices. The air smelled of strange spices and metal. Today was a big reception day, and many ambassadors were coming to meet each other. Park Ji-hoon stood near the center of the room. He was a new human ambassador from Earth. He wore a clean black suit that fit him well. Ji-hoon was tall for a human, with short black hair and calm eyes. He had worked as a diplomat for many years on Earth, solving problems between countries. Now he had the hardest job of all, speaking for all humans in front of the galaxy. Ji-hoon looked around the room with quiet pride. Humans were new to the Galactic Concord. Only 20 years ago, Earth ships had first reached the stars and met other species. Many old empires looked down on humans. They called humans young, loud, and too quick to act. Ji-hoon wanted to change that. He wanted to show that humans were smart, strong, and ready to stand equal with anyone. One by one, the other representatives came to greet him. First came a group of tall insect-like beings from the Eric cluster. Their bodies clicked as they moved, and their many eyes looked at Ji-hoon all at once. They spoke with respect and asked about Earth's farming technology. Ji-hoon smiled and answered politely. Next came a glowing cloud of light that called itself Ambassador Luma from the Plasma Worlds. It floated in front of Ji-hoon and made soft humming sounds. The translator in Ji-hoon's ear turned the sounds into words. Luma asked about human art and music. Ji-hoon told a short story about old Earth songs that made people feel happy or sad. Luma pulsed brighter, as if pleased. After that, a huge reptilian warrior stepped forward. He was 3 meters tall, covered in heavy green scales, and wore armor that shone like gold. His name was too hard for humans to say, so everyone called him General Kor. He shook Ji-hoon's hand with care, afraid to crush it. Kor spoke of battles and honor. Ji-hoon nodded and spoke of peace and working together. Kor laughed, a deep sound that shook the floor, and said humans had brave hearts. Many more came. Some looked like trees with slow voices. Some looked like jelly floating in glass bowls. Some had fur and tails. Some had no shape at all. Ji-hoon greeted each one with the same calm smile. He remembered names when he could. He asked small questions to show interest. His aide, Kim Soo-jin, stood behind him taking notes on a small pad. Soo-jin was young and smart. She wore a blue suit and kept her long hair tied back. She whispered reminders to Ji-hoon when he needed them. The line of greetings grew shorter. Ji-hoon felt good. Everything was going well. Then he saw a small figure walking toward him. The creature was not tall. It reached only to Ji-hoon's chest. Its body was thin, almost too thin. Gray scales covered its skin, but they looked dull, not bright like the scales of other dragons Ji-hoon had seen. Small wings folded tight against its back. The wings looked too small to lift the body. It wore a simple gray robe that hung loose, as if made for someone bigger. Its eyes were large and dark, and its face looked tired. The small dragon stopped in front of Ji-hoon and bowed a little. Its voice came out soft and dry, like wind over dry leaves. The translator spoke the words clearly. I am Ryu from the Draconess Margin. I bring greetings from my people. Ji-hoon looked down at Ryu. He had heard of the Draconess Margin. It was far away on the edge of known space. People said it was poor and empty. Only a few old dragons lived there. They kept to themselves and did not join big wars or build great cities. Most ambassadors treated them as unimportant. Ji-hoon gave a quick nod. He kept his voice polite but short. Welcome, Ryu. The Concord is happy to have old voices here. He pointed toward the long tables full of food and drink. Please go and enjoy the reception. Ryu stood still for a moment. Its large eyes looked up at Ji-hoon. It seemed to wait for more words, maybe a question or longer talk. But Ji-hoon had already turned his head. The next delegate was coming, a fat, rich-looking being from the Vora Collective. The Vora wore bright jewels and smelled of sweet oil. Everyone knew the Vora controlled many banks and trade ships. Talking to them was important. Ji-hoon smiled wide at the Vora and held out his hand. Honored friend, it is good to see you again. Let us talk about the new trade paths. The Vora laughed and started speaking about money and deals. Ji-hoon listened with full attention. Behind him, Ryu turned slowly and walked away toward the food tables. No one noticed. Ji-hoon did not think about Ryu again that day. To him, the small dragon was just one more minor guest from a forgotten corner of space. There were real powers to speak with, species that owned fleets of ships, planets full of factories, armies ready for war. Those were the ones who mattered. Sujin saw Ryu walk away. She felt a small pull of curiosity. The dragon looked lonely, but she said nothing. Her job was to help Ji-hoon with the important people. The reception went on for hours. Music played from hidden speakers. Lights changed color slowly. Laughter and talk filled the air. Ji-hoon moved from group to group. He made small promises. He asked smart questions. He told stories about Earth that made others listen. Many ambassadors nodded with new respect. A few even said humans might become strong friends one day. By the end of the night, Ji-hoon felt tired but happy. He and Sujin walked back to their rooms on the station. The halls were quiet now. Today went well, Ji-hoon said. Yes, sir, Sujin answered. Many important people like you. Ji-hoon smiled. Good. Tomorrow we start real talks about trade. Humans need better prices for our metals and food. We have much to offer. Sujin nodded. She did not mention the small dragon. Neither did Ji-hoon. Far across the room, Ryu sat alone at a small table. It held a cup of hot tea in thin claws. Its dark eyes watched the crowds. No one came to sit nearby. Ryu sipped the tea slowly. A tiny smile touched its mouth, so small that no one saw it. The reception lights dimmed. The first day of meetings was over. No one knew yet that the smallest guest held the biggest power of all. No one knew that the scrawny dragon from the poor margin quietly owned most of the roads that carried goods across the stars. But that truth waited, patient and silent, like Ryu itself. Weeks passed after the big reception. Park Ji-hoon worked hard every day in the meeting rooms of Epsilon Prime. He woke early, studied reports, and went to long talks with other ambassadors. His goal was simple: make life better for humans in the galaxy. Earth needed cheaper fuel, safer trade routes, and fair prices for the things it sold, like rare metals, fresh food, and new machines. Ji-hoon was good at his job. He listened more than he spoke. When he did speak, his words were clear and strong. Many ambassadors started to like him. Some even invited him to private dinners. Kim Soo-jin stayed close, taking notes and sending messages back to Earth. She smiled often now, proud of how well things were going. In almost every big meeting, Ji-hoon saw the same small figure sitting quietly. Ryu, the thin dragon from the Draconess margin, was always there. Ryu chose seats in the corners or at the far ends of long tables. The dragon never stood out. Its gray robe looked the same every day. Its small wings stayed folded tight. Ryu held a datapad but rarely typed. Most of the time, it just watched and listened. No one spoke to Ryu much. When someone asked the dragon a question, Ryu answered in short, soft words. Then silence returned. The big powers, the Vora bankers, the coral factory owners, the Helix ship captains, talked over Ryu as if it was not there. Ji-hoon noticed this, but it did not surprise him. The Draconess margin was poor and far away. Everyone knew that. One morning, Ji-hoon sat in a bright room with 20 other ambassadors. They argued about warp route taxes. Human ships wanted to use a fast lane near the Centauri stars. It would save time and money. Ji-hoon explained why this was fair. He showed numbers on the big screen. Many nodded. The Vora ambassador smiled and said he supported the idea. Then the Helix ship captain raised a hand. Sorry, Ambassador Park. That route has new safety problems. We must raise a fee. Ji-hoon frowned. What problems? Our scans show nothing. The coral factory owner added, My insurance company says the same. Risk is higher now. Soon, half the room agreed. The fast lane stayed expensive. Ji-hoon lost a vote. He sat back, confused and angry. Yesterday everyone liked the plan. Today they changed their minds. After the meeting, he walked with Sujin down a quiet hall. Something is wrong, he said. They flipped too fast. Sujin looked at her pad. I checked. No real safety reports. No new pirates. Just words. Ji-hoon rubbed his eyes. Who tells him to change? Someone big must be behind this. Sujin shrugged. The usual groups. Vora want more money. Helix want control of ships. Coral want cheap metal, but not fair trade. Ji-hoon glanced back into the meeting room through the open door. Most ambassadors had left. Only one figure remained. Ryu sat alone, sipping tea from a small cup. The dragon looked bored, drawing slow circles on its datapad. Ji-hoon almost laughed. Look at that little one. Always here, always quiet. If anyone has no power, it is Ryu. Sujin smiled a little. Yes, sir. Just a small dragon from a small place. They walked on. Days turned into weeks. The same pattern repeated. Ji-hoon would prepare a good plan. He would win support. Then, at the last moment, key votes would shift. Trade deal for Earth grew harder. Human ships waited longer at stations. Prices rose. Messages from Earth asked why progress was slow. Ji-hoon worked even harder. He stayed up late reading old Concord laws. He made new friends. He gave gifts, smaller things like coffee beans or music players. Some ambassadors helped a little, but the big block stayed. One afternoon, a special meeting started about fuel prices. Fuel was the blood of space travel. Without cheap fuel, no ship moved far. Human ships used a new clean kind that Earth made well. Ji-hoon wanted to sell it cheap to many worlds. He stewed and spoke with fire. Friends, Earth fuel is safe and strong. Lower the import tax, and everyone wins. Your factories run longer. Your people travel more. We all grow rich together. Many clapped. The plasma beings glowed brighter. Even General Core nodded his huge head. Then the Vora banker spoke. Nice words, Ambassador Park. But market says supply is low. Price must stay high. The Helix captain agreed. My ships report empty fuel stations on key routes. Ji-hoon showed new data. That is not true. Earth sent 10 big tankers last month. They sit waiting for buyers. Silence fell. Eyes looked away. One by one, ambassadors said they needed time to think. The meeting ended with no change. Ji-hoon returned to his office angry. He threw his pad on the desk. Sujin followed and closed the door. They lied to my face, he said. Tankers are full. Stations are full. Someone blocks the sale on purpose. Sujin poured him water. Who gained from high prices? Everyone who already owns old fuel, Ji-hoon answered. But they smiled at me last week. He looked out the window at the stars. I feel like a child playing a game with hidden rules. That night, Ji-hoon could not sleep. He walked the quiet halls of the station. Soft lights guided his steps. He passed closed shops and empty gardens. At the end of one hall, he found a small lounge open. Inside, one light burned. Ryu sat there alone at a low table. A pot of tea steamed in front of it. The dragon looked up and nodded politely. Ji-hoon paused. He almost walked away. But the room was warm, and he was tired. He stepped in. May I sit? He asked. Ryu moved a cup toward him. Please. Ji-hoon sat today. He poured tea. It smelled of herbs from far worlds. They drank in silence for a time. Finally, Ji-hoon spoke. You are in every meeting, Ryu. You see everything. Tell me, why do plans fail at the last moment? Ryu's dark eyes met his. The dragon's voice stayed soft. Because someone quietly asked them to fail. Who? Ryu sipped tea. Someone they listened to. Ji-hoon leaned forward. The Vora? The Helix? Ryu only looked at him. Ji-hoon sighed. You speak in riddles. No riddle, Ryu said. Just truth spoken small. Ji-hoon stood. Thank you for the tea. He left. In the hall, he shook his head. Talking to Ryu was like talking to fog. No answers, only more questions. But something stayed in his mind. Ryu was always there, always watching, always ignored. The next big meeting came. This time about insurance for cargo ships. Human ships carried valuable things now. Good insurance meant lower risk and more trade. Ji-hoon made his case again. Clear words. Good numbers. Smiles around the table. Then, one by one, the big group said no. Too much risk, they claimed. Pirates. Storms in space. Old excuses. Ji-hoon looked around the room. His eyes stopped on Ryu. The small dragon sat in the corner as always, head low, seeming half asleep. For the first time, a tiny thought entered Ji-hoon's mind. Why is Ryu always here if the Draconis margin matters so little? But the thought left quickly. He had real problems to solve. Outside, Sejin waited. Another loss, sir? Yes, he said, but I will not stop. They walked away together. Behind them, in the meeting room, Ryu finished its tea and stood. No one saw the faint smile on its thin lips. Power, Ryu knew, worked best when no one noticed it was there. Months went by on Epsilon Prime. Park Ji-hoon felt the weight of every passing day. At first, the problems were small. A human cargo ship waited an extra week at a transfer station. A load of Earth fruits arrived late and spoiled. Ji-hoon sent polite messages and got polite answers. Nothing changed. Then the problems grew bigger. 3 big convoys carrying rare metals from Earth stopped moving. Station masters said there was no space to unload. Fuel stations on popular routes ran low just when human ships needed to refill. Prices for everything humans bought went up fast. Partners who had signed deals suddenly asked for more money or backed away completely. Ji-hoon called emergency meetings. He stood in the bright council room and asked direct questions. Why are our ships delayed? Show me the reports. The Vora banker smiled with many teeth. These things happen, Ambassador Park. The galaxy is large. Sometimes routes are busy. The Helix ship captain nodded. My fleet has the same trouble. It is a market, nothing personal. The coral factory owner added, insurance costs rose. We must protect our investment. Ji-hoon showed his own reports. Human scanners found empty docks. Fuel tanks were full. No pirates, no storms, no wars on those routes. But no one listened long. The meeting ended with kind words and no help. Back in his office, Ji-hoon walked in circles. Kim Soo-jin sat at her desk, reading messages from Earth. Her face looked tired. Earth is angry, she said quietly. Factories slow down because parts do not arrive. People lose jobs. They ask why we cannot fix this. Ji-hoon stopped. I am trying. Every day I try. I know, sir. Soo-jin looked up. But someone blocks us at every step. It is too perfect. Like one hand moves all the pieces. Ji-hoon sat down hard. If I knew whose hand, I would cut it off. That night, Ji-hoon worked late. The station grew quiet. Most lights dimmed. He checked reports again and again. Nothing new. He almost went to bed when a soft chime sounded. An unmarked message waited on his private screen. The words were simple. Ambassador Park. If you wish to discuss trade stability, I am available at any time. The small lounge on level 7 is quiet after midnight. Ryu. Ji-hoon stayed at the screen. Ryu? The thin little dragon? He almost deleted the note. It felt like a joke. Why would someone from the poor Draconis margin know anything about trade stability? Everyone knew that region had almost no ships, no factories, no money. But Ji-hoon was desperate. Sleep would not come anyway. He put on a plain jacket and took the lift to level 7. The small lounge was empty except for one figure. Ryu sat at a low table near a window that showed slow-moving stars. A pot of hot tea steamed in front of the dragon. 2 cups waited. Ji-hoon walked in. You send a message? Ryu nodded once. Please sit. Ji-hoon Saturday. He did not touch the tea. Tell me why you think you can help. Ryu poured tea for both. The smell was calm and warm. I do not think. I know. Ji-hoon leaned forward. Then speak plainly. My people suffer. Ships sit still. Goods rot. Prices hurt us. Who does this and why? Ryu sipped slowly. Its dark eyes never left Ji-hoon. I do it. Silence filled the room. Ji-hoon felt his heart beat hard. He waited for the dragon to laugh or say it was a mistake. Nothing came. You? Ji-hoon finally said. His voice sounded loud in the quiet. You are from the Draconis margin, a forgotten edge of space. How can you stop human trade? Ryu set the cup down with care. I own 72% of the Galactic Trade Network's routing contracts. My groups control most warp gates that carry heavy cargo. We write the insurance for 9 out of 10 long journeys. We own or lease the big freight carriers that move goods between sectors. Ji-hoon blinked. He tried to find words. That is not possible. The Vora owned the banks. The Helix owned the ships. The Coral owned the factories. Ryu's thin mouth curved in a small smile. They own what people see. I own what people need to move things from one place to another. Gates, fuel stops, docks, insurance. Without those, nothing travels far. Ji-hoon sat back. His mind raced. He remembered every meeting. Ryu always there, always quiet, always ignored. Why block humans now? I did not block at first, Ryu said. Your ships move well for months. I watched. Then I tested. A small delay here. A higher fee there. Every time. The big groups followed my quiet suggestions. They still do not know it is me. They think it is their own idea, or the market. Ji-hoon felt heat in his face. You played with my people's lives to test something. Ryu's voice stayed soft. Yes. I needed to know if humans would notice the real power or keep chasing the loud ones. Ji-hoon stood fast. The chair scraped the floor. You hurt us for a game. Not a game, Ryu said. A choice. The old powers grow fat and slow. They squeeze until roots die. I grow tired of carrying them. Humanity is new. You build fast. You take risk. You find better ways. I want partners who grow, not ones who only take. Ji-hoon walked to the window. Stars passed slowly. He thought of Earth, blue oceans, green fields, cities full of people waiting for ships to return. He turned back. Why tell me now? Because you fight hard, Ryu said. You do not quit. You ask real questions. And because you are beginning to look in the right corners. Ji-hoon sat again. His anger cooled into something colder. What do you want from us? Nothing yet, Ryu said. First, I stop the pressure. Tomorrow your ships will move. Fuel will flow. Prices will fall to fair levels. Then we talk about partnership. Equal. Long-term. Ji-hoon looked at the small dragon. Thin body, dull scales, old robe. Nothing about Ryu looked strong or rich. Yet the words felt true. He had seen the proof in every delay. One question, Ji-hoon said. Why do you hide? If you own so much, why sit quiet and let others take credit? Ryu folded its small wings tighter. Big targets draw fire. Small ones live long. My family learned this many centuries ago. We bought broken ships when empires fought wars. We ensured risky routes when others feared them. We waited. Money grew while others spent it on glory. Ji-hoon drank the tea at last. It tasted good. I judged you wrong the first day. I dismissed you. Yes, Ryu said. Most do. Ji-hoon put the cup down. I will not forget this lesson. Ryu nodded. Good. Lessons keep us alive. They sat in quiet for a time. Outside, a human cargo ship lit its engines and moved toward a warp gate. No one stopped it. Ji-hoon stood to leave. Tomorrow, then. Tomorrow, Ryu agreed. As Ji-hoon walked the empty halls back to his room, his steps felt lighter. The blocks were ending, but something bigger had started. He had looked into the eyes of the true master of galactic trade, a scrawny dragon no one noticed. And the dragon had chosen to notice him. The next morning changed everything. Park Ji-hoon woke to a flood of messages. Ship captains reported that docking bays opened without delay. Fuel stations offered full tanks at old prices. Cargo that had sat for weeks suddenly cleared customs. Insurance companies sent new quotes, lower than before the trouble started. Within hours, human trade flowed smooth and fast again. Ji-hoon sat at his desk and stared at the reports. He felt relief, but also wonder. Ryu had not lied. One quiet word from the small dragon, and the blocks vanished. Kim Soo-jin rushed into the office with bright eyes. Sir, look. All convoys are moving. Earth Command sent thanks. They asked how you did it. Ji-hoon smiled, but the smile was small. Tell them we found a new friend. Details later. Soo-jin tilted her head. A friend? Who? In time, he said. First, I need to learn more. That afternoon, Ji-hoon asked Ryu to meet in the same quiet lounge on level 7. This time he arrived early. He brought earth tea, real leaf from mountain farms. When Ryu entered, Ji-hoon stood and bowed deeper than before. "Thank you," he said. "My people feel the difference already." Ryu sat and accepted a cup. Steam rose between them. Good. Pressure was only a test. Now we talk as equals. Ji-hoon nodded. "I have questions." Ryu waited, calm and patient. "How did your people build this power?" Ji-hoon asked. "Books say the Draconis margin is empty. Old stories call it a place of ruins and poor clans." Ryu sipped the earth tea and made a soft sound of pleasure. "Stories are written by the loud ones. Long ago, when great empires fought big wars, my ancestors stayed small. They saw broken ships left on battlefields. No one wanted them. We bought them cheap. We fixed them. We flew the routes others feared, places with pirates, storms, new dangers." Ji-hoon listened without moving. Ryu went on. "Empire spent money on weapons and glory. We spent on gates, docks, fuel stops. When a new warp point opened, others raced to claim planets. We quietly bought the right to service the gate, one credit at a time. Year after year, no one noticed because we never bragged." Ji-hoon thought of the bright Vora jewels, the huge helix fleets, the loud coral factories. "So all this time, the real roads belong to you." "Not all," Ryu said, "but most of the important ones. The ones that carry food, metal, medicine. The ones no empire can live without." Ji-hoon leaned forward. "And you stayed hidden. Small body, dull scales, plain robe. No one suspects." Ryu's eyes glinted. "A large dragon draws hunters. A small one live long enough to grow rich." Ji-hoon felt his face grow warm. He remembered the first reception. His quick nod. His fast turn away. "I was blind. I looked only at size and shine. I dismiss you in front of everyone." "Yes," Ryu said softly. "Most do. That is why the secret stayed safe for centuries." Ji-hoon looked down at his cup. "I am sorry." Ryu waved a thin claw. "No need for sorry. You see now. That is enough." Silence sat between them for a time. Outside the window, a long line of cargo ships, many with Earth markings, moved smoothly toward a bright warp gate. Ji-hoon spoke again. "You said you want partners. What kind?" "Honest ones," Ryu answered. "Fast ones. Ones who build new things instead of guarding old ones. Humanity does that. You left your planet only 20 years ago. Already you sell clean fuel, strong metals, machines no one else thought of. You take risk. I like risk when it brings growth." Ji-hoon smiled, real this time. "We can grow together. Earth has ideas. You have roads." Ryu nodded. "And safety. My gates will open wide for human ships. Insurance will cost less. Fuel stops will keep extra tanks for you. In return, we share profits fair. We learn your new ways." Ji-hoon held out his hand. Ryu placed a cool, thin claw in it. They shook once, simple, strong. Days turned into weeks. The change spread fast. Human trade ships traveled quicker and cheaper than ever. Earth factories ran full speed. New jobs opened. Money flowed back home. Messages from Earth leaders were full of praise for Ambassador Park. In the Concord halls, whispers started. Old ambassadors watched Ji-hoon with new respect, and some fear. How had the young human fixed problems no one else could touch? Ji-hoon never told the full truth. He only smiled and kept working. He and Ryu met often now. Sometimes in the quiet lounge. Sometimes in small gardens where flowers from many worlds grew. Ryu taught Ji-hoon about hidden trade laws, old contracts, quiet ways to move power without noise. Ji-hoon taught Ryu about human ideas, fast computers, clean engines, ways to make gates even safer. Sujin joined some meetings. At first she sat quiet, eyes wide. She could not believe the small dragon owned more than the loud empires. Soon she took notes and asked sharp questions. Ryu liked her. "Good mind," it said once. "Clear sight." One evening, after a long day of talks, Ji-hoon and Ryu walked a quiet hall together. Station lights made soft shadows. "I still feel shame," Ji-hoon said. "That first day, I turned my back on you." Ryu stopped. "Look forward, not back. Shame is heavy. It slows the wings. Ji-hoon laughed softly. Humans do not have wings. But you fly far, Ryu said. Farther than many who do. They reached a wide window. Below, hundreds of ships waited in orderly lines. Many carried Earth flags. All moved without delay. Ryu spoke again. My ancestors had to survive. Now we hide no more, not from friends. You may tell your people the truth when you are ready. Ji-hoon thought of Earth, of leaders who needed to know real partners. Soon, he said, when the first big prophets arrive, then they will believe. Ryu nodded. Good. A new thought came to Ji-hoon. Will others try to take what you have? When they learn. Ryu's thin mouth curved. Some will try. They always do. But now we have fast friends who build strong things. Let them try. Ji-hoon felt pride rise in his chest. Humans were still young in the galaxy, but they learned quick, and now they stood beside the quietest, strongest power of all. As they walked on, Ji-hoon glanced at Ryu. The small dragon seemed the same, thin, dull scales, plain robe. But now Ji-hoon saw true strength there, not in size or shine, but in patience, wisdom, and centuries of silent work. He promised himself never to judge by looks again. Far away, on Earth, children looked up at night skies and dreamed of stars. Ships full of goods sped toward home. Factories sang with work. And all because one human ambassador had finally seen past the scrawny dragon's humble face. The revelation was complete. A new alliance began, quiet at first, but built to last. Months passed quickly on Epsilon Prime. Human trade grew stronger every week. Ships from Earth came and went without delay. Cargo holds filled with goods from many worlds. Fuel flowed cheap and clean. Factories on Earth ran day and night. New cities rose. Young people studied space engineering. Old people smiled at full markets. All because quiet gates opened wide and safe roads stayed clear. Park Ji-hoon walked the Concord halls with new confidence. Ambassadors who once looked past him now stopped to talk. They asked questions. They offered smiles. Some even asked for secrets. Ji-hoon only said, "Good friends help good friends." He never named Ryu. Ryu stayed the same on the outside. Thin body, dull gray scales, simple robe, small wings folded tight. The dragon sat in corners or at far ends of tables. It spoke little. But now Ji-hoon noticed small things. When Ryu entered a room, certain big ambassadors grew quiet. When Ryu sipped tea slowly, votes often went the way humans wanted. Kim Soo-jin worked harder than ever. She met with Ryu's quiet helpers, other dragons who looked just as plain. They showed her list of gates, docks, and fuel stops. Numbers bigger than any Earth bank. Soo-jin's eyes grew wide at first. Then she smiled and asked sharp questions. Soon she planned new routes that saved time and money. Ryu watched her work and nodded approval. One bright morning, a grand reception returned to the main hall. Lights shone. Music played. Food tables waited under soft colors. This time the event celebrated a new trade year. Hundreds of beings filled the space. Ji-hoon stood near the center again, same as the first day. Soo-jin stood behind him with her pad. He wore a new suit, dark blue with a small earth pin. Many ambassadors came to greet him first now. General Kor shook his hand with care. The glowing Luma pulsed happy light. Even the rich Vora smiled wide and spoke of future deals. Then Ji-hoon saw Ryu enter alone. The small dragon moved slow through the crowd. Beings stepped aside without thinking. No one stopped to talk. Ryu reached a quiet spot near the food tables and took a cup of tea. Ji-hoon watched. He remembered the first reception. His quick nod. His fast turn away. Heat rose in his face again. Not shame now, but purpose. He excused himself from a group of bankers and walked straight to Ryu. The crowd parted for him too. Whispers followed. Ji-hoon stopped in front of the small dragon and bowed deep, lower than he ever bowed to anyone. "My friend Ryu," he said in a clear, loud voice. "It is a true honor to see you again." Many heads turned. Eyes widened. Mouths opened a little. Ryu looked up. Dark eyes twinkled. The dragon returned a small nod and soft words. "The honor is mine, Ambassador Park." Ji-hoon stood straight and smiled. He took a cup and stood beside Ryu. They talked about small things, tea taste, Star colors, new ship designs. But everyone saw them together. Everyone heard the respect in Ji-hoon's voice. Sujin watched from across the room. She smiled wide. Later that night, whispers flew through every deck of the station. The human ambassador treated the scrawny dragon like a great leader. Why? What secret power did the little one hide? Some laughed at first. Then they checked trade records. Ships moved better for humans. Prices stayed fair. Old blocks never returned. Slowly, understanding grew. Days later, a proud warrior species sent a new ambassador. He was huge, covered in bright red scales and golden armor. His voice boomed. His steps shook the floor. He strode through the halls like he owned them. In one meeting, the warrior passed Ryu without a glance. He stopped in front of Ji-hoon and spoke loud. "Human, I hear you have luck in trade. My people want the same. Speak for us too." Ji-hoon kept his face calm. "I speak for Earth, but good friends help many." The warrior laughed. "Friends? I see no one strong beside you." At that moment, Ryu stood quietly nearby, holding a small cup. The warrior looked down once, snorted, and turned away. Ji-hoon felt old anger rise, but he kept it inside. He only smiled. "Time shows who is strong," he said. Weeks later, the warrior's ships met trouble. Delays, high fees, empty fuel stops. He shouted in meetings. He blamed others. No one fixed it fast. Then Ji-hoon met Ryu in their quiet lounge. The red warrior learned slowly. Ji-hoon said, "Ryu sipped tea. Some lessons take time." Ji-hoon nodded. "But humans learn fast. We will not forget." Ryu's thin mouth curved. "Good." More months passed. The partnership grew deep. Human engineers worked on Draconis gates. They made them faster and safer. Dragon crews learned Earth clean fuel. Together they opened new routes no one used before. Profits came like rivers. Earth sent more people to the station. Young diplomats studied under Ji-hoon. Traders met dragon helpers. Sujin became head of trade planning. She walked with pride. One quiet evening, Ji-hoon and Ryu sat in a garden full of earth flowers and dragon vines. Stars shone above the glass roof. "I sent 4 reports home," Ji-hoon said. "Earth leaders know the truth now. They send thanks. They call you our greatest ally." Ryu looked at the flowers. "Words are kind. Actions matter more." Ji-hoon smiled. "Actions speak already. Our ships fly your gates. Your ships carry our goods. We guard each other now." Ryu nodded. "Yes, no more hiding from friends." Ji-hoon thought back over the year. From blind dismissal to deep respect. From blocked roads to open stars. All because he finally saw the strength in a humble face. He looked at Ryu. "I teach this story to every new human here. Look past size. Look past shine. True power often wears a quietest clothes." Ryu's eyes twinkled again. "Good lesson. Long ago, my ancestors taught me the same." They sat in peace. Far below, ships from Earth and the Draconis margin flew side by side. New lights in the dark. In the great game of galactic power, much stayed the same. Big empires still spoke loud. Rich beings still showed bright jewels. Warriors still carried heavy armor. But those who watched closely saw the change. When the human ambassador spoke, people listened. When the scrawny dragon entered the room, wise ones stood straighter. And everyone knew, dismissing the small dragon was once the greatest mistake. Now, standing with it was the wisest choice. Humanity had found its place, not by being the loudest or the biggest, but by learning to see true strength wherever it hid. The galaxy turned on. Trade flowed. Stars waited. And a quiet partnership, born from one man's mistake and another's patience, grew into something strong enough to last centuries. Ji-hoon raised his teacup toward Ryu. The dragon raised its own. They drank together under the stars. The story was not over. It was only beginning.